Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Ayin Zayin, number 77 in Baba Basra. As we learned from yesterday, we had a famous machlokus between Rebbe and the Rabbanim. Rebbe said that osios are nikna b'mesira, meaning if you have a document, an IOU that somebody owes you money, you can transfer ownership of that document simply by giving it over. Mesira, just give it to the guy, that's good enough. Whereas the Rabbanim say, no, that doesn't mean anything. Guy could say, I just picked it up off the floor. That doesn't give him ownership. You have to actually have a star that goes along with it. And that's what the rabbi said, that osios nikna b'mesira, we had that in Ayin Vav and Aleph. So you have to write a document that goes along with it that says, I am giving or selling you this IOU, this specific IOU. That's what the Rabbanan sheet did. Now, at the top of Ayin Zayin, right from the beginning, Amar Meimar, Hilchos osios nikna b'mesira. The gears of the Rashbam is, just like we have it, like we read here in the Gemara, that a letter, words, osios means literally letters, means words or words in a document can be handed over just by handing it over. You don't need another document to accompany it. Karebi, like Rebbe holds. That's the Rashbam's gear. So we'll get to the other gears in a minute. Amalei Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi said to a Maimer who had said that the locha is like Rebbe, which is a little bit strange, number one, because Rebbe against Rabbanan usually go back to Rabbanan. Okay, but Rav Ashi said to Maimer, Gemara, you know what you said, it's like Rebbe is, did you have such a tradition? Like, where'd you get this idea that the locha should be like Rebbe, that all you need is handing it over? Is it a tradition that you have? You heard it from your Rebbe? Oh, Spara. Or is it a logical argument that you came up with on your own? Even though, like Rav Asher says, that Spara many times can be a daraisa too. Because, for example, how do we know that if you're told to kill Yankel, you have to let yourself be killed rather than kill him? Because the Gemara says it's a Svara. Who says that your blood is redder than his? You know, who says that you're entitled to live rather than him? That's a Svara, and that's considered daraisa. So Svara could also be daraisa, meaning where'd you get this from? Did you come up with it on your own, or is it a tradition? Amalei. So a Maimer said it's a Gemara. It's a Gemara. I have this tradition that locha is like Rebbe. Amar Rav Ashi says, well, you know what? I'll add on to that. Sfar Namihu. I'll tell you that there's a logical reason also why Mesir alone is good. Why? The osios mili ninu. What are letters? Those are words written in a star or words written orally. Umili b'mili lo miknin. It doesn't make sense to say that one set of words can be acquired with another set of words. Words are words. Words can help you acquire a karka. For example, a star can help you acquire a karka. But one set of words should not be acquired with another set of words. That's the girsa that we have. Now, the Tosfos brings down that Rabbeinu Tam and the Ri hold, no, that their girsa is ein osios nikna b'mesira like the Rabbanan. Ein osios nikna b'mesira. And he brings several rayas for that different places in Shas that we seem to say, not like Rashbam Ram says, that v'chein riyah to the Gemara, maskana b'harvim makomos said osios nikna b'mesira. Rashbam learns exactly the opposite of these other rabbis, the other Rishonim, that osios are not nikna b'mesira, but rather like the Rabbanan, that you have a star with it also. But the simple way we're learning like the Rashbam, that osios nikna b'mesira, the Gemara says below, is it really the case that you cannot acquire an IOU simply by handing it over, that you actually have to have a star that accompanies it and says, I am selling or giving to you this IOU that says this such and such IOU, and identify it? It's like we're going to try to see otherwise that words can be handed over just with other words. He said, name Rav Shtei Shtar saying there are two kinds of stars. Doesn't mean that there's only two kinds. It means that there are two kinds of stars. There's two cases of stars that we're going to explain now, which are different from one another. How so? Let's say a man says, Reuben says to Shimon, Zechu b'sara leploni. I want you to acquire this field for Yankel. I'm giving it to him. You have to acquire it for him. You acquire it on his behalf. It says, even though he's not here. I want you to acquire it for him. Make a chazaka on it. Make a chazaka, make a kinyan. You don't have to pay anything, just like a chazaka. The kisvos is a star. And write a star for him also. I'm assigning you two Adam. You acquire it for him, and also write a star that I'm giving it to him. It's both things. Okay, let's say Reuben says to Shimon, I want you to acquire this. Please go ahead and acquire the field for Yankel and give him a star on it also. Now, let's say afterwards, Reuben, before they wrote a star, they just acquired it for him. They acquired, they made a chazaka. They didn't get around to writing a star. Choser b'shtar bein a choser b'soda. Once they acquired the field, they acquired it for him. He said, listen, he said to two guys, acquire this field for Yankel. They acquired it for him. And he said also, write a star to accompany it. And then he changed his mind. He said, don't write a star. I just want to give it to him. I don't need a star. I don't want it written down anywhere. We don't need records or whatever. I don't want you to write a star. So he can retract that. It's up to him. A person gives something willingly. Normally, you would write a star. Rashbam points out if you say something, you normally give it to somebody, you can write a star. But here he says specifically write a star, and then he changed his mind, and they haven't written the star yet. You can go back on the star. You can't go back on the field once they acquired it for him. Let's say that's one case. Another, he said two kinds. One where he said acquire the field for him, make a chazaka, and write a star, and then you changed your mind about the star. You can't go back on it because they were zocha from right away as soon as they made a kinyan, like a chazaka. Okay, they showed ownership. Let's say the second case, Almanashit Tichlos Ashtar, acquire it for him under the condition, right? Whenever you say Almanas, that's a condition. And even when we say, even the whole business about, Tanai by God, Tanai by Reuben, we had that recently, when they came into Eretz Yisrael, right? The Parshas Shavua, and they wanted to stay overseas, and we learned from over there, they want to see over the Yarden in Transjordan, and we learned from there the whole idea of Tanai by God, Tanai by Reuben, that you have to say the positive first, not the negative first, and they have to double it up and say, if you do this, you will get this, and if you don't do this, you won't get. That's the also of if. But if you say almanas on the condition, then it works in all cases. The Gemara says, so almanas shetichbulo as a star. Let's say acquired from on the condition that you're going to write a star with the two. Then choser be mishtar be mesada. Then even the acquisition, even they made a kinyan, doesn't work unless they write a star. So he can go back on it. He can go back on it. He can say, I don't want to give it to them anymore if the star hasn't been written. Or he can go back on the star. Or he can say, he can go back on the star also and say, I don't want you to write a star. And you're only allowed to acquire it if you write a star, but I don't want to write a star anymore, so you can go back. So that's the idea here when he says acquired for them under the condition that you're going to write a star, and then he retracted before the star was written. Before the star was written, he can go back on it, even on the acquisition, because the acquisition was dependent on writing a star, and he changed his mind about the star. He can go back either way. So those are two cases of a star. One where the star was simply an addition. He could change his mind if the star wasn't written. If they wrote the star, they gave it to him already. It's too late. Can't retract. But there's no Indian givers over here, right? But if the two things were separate, acquired from and write a star. After they acquired from him, he said, don't give him the star. You could do that. But if he said acquired from him on the condition that there's going to be a star, and then he changed his mind about the star or about the acquisition, either way, the star wasn't been written yet. They only get it. They only were entitled to acquire it for Yankel under the condition it's going to be a star, and there's no star. Those are two cases of a star. This is what the Brisa says. They're really not germane to our issue. Rav Chia bar Rabban Amar Rafuna, he says, Shlosha star is saying. There's three cases of stars that I want to explain. There's many cases of star, but these are cases that he wants to explain the difference. What are the three? Try Haram, two, like you just said. One where you said write the star separately from the acquisition, and one where he said acquire it only on the condition it's going to be a star, then he can go back either way. Idach, what's the third case? Imkara mocher because of a star. Let's say a seller wants to sell his house or a field, and he knows, when you make a deal, they want to have a star on it. Till you find a sofer to write it up, it wouldn't be so easy. So what he did was he happened to come upon a sofer while he was looking to sell the field. And he had the star written out. Reuben says, I'm going to convince Shimon to buy the field. I need the money now, and I want to buy the field. But if I don't have the star ready, he might say, till we get a star, till we do it, push it off next week, whatever. And he needed the money. So what he did was he told the sofer to write the bill of sale, have it, and they signed it and everything, have it written and signed before the sale took place. Shimon didn't agree to it yet. Shimon didn't give any money yet, but Reuben did that. Now, can Reuben do it? Yes, he can. You know why? Who's taking the risk over here? Reuben. Because if the star falls on the floor and he loses it in shul and somebody picks it up and Shimon picks it up, then it's my field. Look, I got the star. He signed it and everything. So he wants to take the risk. That's his problem, right? He's taking the risk. He's the one. We're not risking somebody else's money, risking his own. So if Reuben wants to do that, he can do it. Okay. Imkara mocher, because of a star, the mocher, the seller, Reuben over here, went ahead before the sale took place, before he met Shimon, but he anticipated that he's going to be able to sell to Shimon, and he wrote the star. That's okay. Like we learned, you can write a star of a sale for the mocher, even though the purchaser's not there yet. Normally, you wouldn't want to do that, right? You can't say, could Adam or a sofer, can a sofer write or an Adam sign on a loan, on a loan before it was done, and make it seem like the Lova owes money to the Malva. Couldn't do that. Even if the Malva can't do it on his own, the Lova possibly could if he's the Lova and he's the one giving it, right? But for a sell, here you see that the same thing would apply to sell, because who's the risk taker over here? The seller. You can do that. Okay. So now what happens? You write the star. So this star is written. This bill of sale it's a bill of sale, and it's written up in advance. And who is it going to go to eventually? Shimon, if Shimon buys the field, right? Reuben took the risk. Shimon has the field. How does Shimon get the star? Once Shimon agrees to buy it, they agree on a price, whatever. And how does he acquire it? Makes a chazaka on the field. He locks it or opens it or does some act of ownership. He acquires the star wherever it is. With the field, he gets the star. Now, how did he acquire the star? The star is basically just words. It's just words. And yet he acquires it just with Masira. You just said what? You said that it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. According to Rashbam's Girsa, let's learn like the Rashbam, that Ameimer's halacha and Rav Ashi confirmed his halacha is that Osios nikdis b'Masira. That's all you need. Right, so now the Gemara says we've read 3 cases, and this 3rd case shows that how does he get the star? Simply by saying, take the star with it. So just take the star with it. And this case where he makes a chazaka, where Shimon makes a chazaka in the field, and he acquires a star with it. Zui sheshanina. This is what we learned. The chasim she'en lachrais, movables, items that are not usually written in a mortgage. People don't write a mortgage on a car or something of that sort. Right? If you want a mortgage on property, I have no obligation. If you make a chazaka on karka with kesef, you acquire it either with kesef shtar chazaka. You acquire the movables with it too. So what do you see over here? Take a look in Rashbam. Kesef shtar chazaka a little bit below where we are right. Just a couple of lines below. Kesef shekibel manakarka shekibel manakarka. You got the money for the karka. Or he made a chazak on it, he made an act of ownership. Nikin gamatal the hashtar, we're assuming now the hashtar b'mili ba'alma mikni. The star you acquire simply with words. I want to give it to him. He actually didn't hand it to him. He wrote the star in advance with the sofer, like we said. The mocher, the seller, Reuben could sell it and could write it in advance. How does Shimon get it? He gets it automatically because the mocher wanted to give it to him. Even though the purchaser never actually got it, Connolly acquires it. Kolshkein Lael, certainly before the star b'star mikni, that it's acquired with a star. Just acquire it, just by saying, you keep it. Below star. So therefore, what do we say over here? We said, according to Rashbam's Girsa, that what? That Ameimer and Rav Ashi say that Osios 6 is 0, and there's no purpose in a star. You want to add a star on the IOU? Mili b'mili don't work. Says the Gemara, what do you mean mili b'mili don't work? Over here, words alone. He didn't even hand it over. He wrote the star, the Mocha Reuben wrote the star with the sofer. It's sitting at the sofer's house. And then he goes and he finds him and says, will you buy the house? Will you buy the field for $100,000? Yeah, buy the field, make a kinyan of the field. You get the star, even if it's still in the sofer's house. It's in his study, wherever he writes the stuff, right? He acquires it automatically. So if he acquires it automatically there, certainly if there's a star written on that, it should work. What is our whole issue? That if I have an IOU and I want to give it to you, I'm Aimer, and Rav Ashi says, I could just give it to you. I don't need any star written on it. And he answers, and Rav Ashi says, yeah, it makes sense, because what's the purpose of words, another star on the first star? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. So what do you mean, why shouldn't it work? It works even if I just want to give you the star, like over here. I wrote that the Reuben, the seller, wrote a star in advance, And then he makes a deal with Shimon and says, Shimon, go take the field, go make a chazaka, lock it up, show ownership, put a new lock on it, show ownership, and he gets the star over here, even though he never even handed it to him. So certainly if there's a star written on that, that should be good. That's how the Rashbam will learn. Says the Gemara, no, Agav Shiny, that's different. He didn't just acquire the star on its own by saying you get to keep it. He was Konid Kinyan Agav. What's Kinyan Agav? Together with the Karka. Well, we said, I sell you a Karka, I sell you my house, and I'm selling you the car that's also on the Chasser in the carport of the house. If you make a Kinyan in the house, you get the movables with it too. Or my baseball glove that's sitting in the yard. That's how things work. That's different. That's not you just Kona the star because I want to give you the star. That's Kona the star together with the Karka. How do we know that? We had in the Gemara and Azav and Bab Metzia. Remember this? That normally, how does Chalipin work? I give you my handkerchief and you give me your chametz or your karka or whatever. You give something along with it. What about if I give you money and you return for that? So that should also be Chalipin. I'm not using it the value of it, but I'm just exchanging it. So does that with more says that doesn't work? Why? Because when I give you money, you're thinking about the money. You're thinking about how much money it was: 5 shekels, 10 shekels, 1,000 shekels. You're thinking about the value. So there it doesn't work. If a coin doesn't work with Chalipin, a nickname, but together with the karka, money could be acquired. If, for example, I want to give you some money, and I have the money in the house, and I give you the house, you get the money with it. I tell you, I'm getting a mini. A famous case, Rav Papa. The case of Rav Papa. Rav Papa was owed 12,000. Let's call it dollars, suz, whatever. $12,000 in Bechel on that place. Somebody in Bechel owed Rav Papa $12,000. And what happened was the person who owed him the money, what happened was that Rav Papa sent Rav Shmuel Baracha to collect the money. Shmuel Baracha was going to that place and he said, please collect 12,000 for me. So what happened was the lova, the borrower said, okay, I'll give you the money. How do I know that you're the legitimate shaliach? Let's say the money gets lost on the way home. Will my loan have been paid? I gave you the $12,000. How do I know that you're the Mashiach? So there was a similar case over there. The Gemara says a similar case where the lender told the shliach to go get the money from me, and the borrower said, "Hold on, if I give it to you, I'm absolved the responsibility. How do I know that you'll tell me afterwards? Oh, you were just doing me a favor. You're not responsible. You have to bring me what's called a harsha, an authorization to show that the lender that you're acting on behalf of the lender." So first they said that's good enough. Then they said, wait a minute, maybe the lender will die before you get back, or before you even come to me. Maybe, we don't know. They didn't have communications in those days. Maybe the lender will have died, so his authorization is worthless. If he died, who owns the loan now? His Yorshim, his children, right? His children, and they didn't give you an authorization. So how can this work? How can you satisfy the concern of the borrower, right? That if he gives him the $12,000, that it's paid off. How do you do that? The only way is to give the 12,000 to the messenger. You own the money now. The $12,000 that he owes me, it's yours now. How did he give it to him? He doesn't have the money there. The money's over there. How did he give it to him? He gave it to him, Agav the Karka. He says, okay, acquire this balata, this tile I'm giving you, make a kinyan on that, right? Make a kinyan on that, a chazaka, it's a balata in the ground. So make a kinyan on it, either kesef, shtar, or chazaka, and with that you acquire the money over there. So then he acquired it, and he has proof that he acquired it that way. Then the borrower doesn't mind giving him the money because he knows now that who is his creditor, not the original rabbi, but the messenger. The messenger owns the money now. And that's the case here. Rav Papa had a similar case. Rav Papa back in the Gemara. I had $12,000. He gave the money to the 12,000 that was owed to him. He gave him that money out the base on the threshold of his house. He says, acquire this threshold, right? Give me a star or whatever he did. And he had proof that he acquired, and then he owed the $12,000. Then the borrower gave him the money. And when Rav Shmuel Baracha came home with the money, when he came, Rav Papa greeted him, went like halfway there, went out to a city to greet him. He was so happy to get his money back. and to make sure that Rav Shmuel didn't keep the money, right? Because he actually gave him the money. Right? He actually gave him the money. It was his money. It was the messenger's money he gave it to him. So that was a point, like we see over there, that Kinyan Agav works. We said that, remember before, we said that with, I think the rabbi used that one time when somebody was going to Chutz La'aretz before Pesach. And he said, how was he going to be able to give him the chametz when, make a deal on the chametz at the right time? He was there days or weeks before. So he says he gave the rabbi the schus, Agav, a balat of his house, the step of his house, or a piece of his house, a stone of his house. He was maked to him that way. Couldn't do it with a chalipin, because chalipin takes effect right away. But he could do it, and he was leaving. Right, he could do it there. I give him agav say for the base. So that's how he acquired it. Okay, so that's all the way the Rashbam learns. Now we said before that Tosfos says no, that the gears is Amar Ameimer Hilchasa Ein Osios Nixon Masira, but you actually have to have an IOU with it. You have to have not an IOU. That the IOU has to be acquired with another star. Has to be acquired with another star. And that's not enough just to say, okay, I have an IOU. He owes me money. I'm giving it to you now. I also have another star with it. That's what the Rabbanan say yesterday, and that we're confirming today, that I have to give another star, that I'm giving you this IOU, or selling you this IOU. I'm giving that to you. That's what the Girsa was. That Osios not ain't Osios from Seer, but rather you need a star with the two. Maybe the Rambam says that too, or the whoever, because we don't see it safe in here in the Gemara about Osios from Seer. It's ain't Osios from Seer. And the Tosfos, not the big Tosfos there says, like we said before, Rabbeinu Tam of the Risay, the Girsa is Einos Masira. But the second to the last Tosfos on Amin Aleph says Osios Mili B'Mili Lo Mikni. V'Omarid the Masira. In other words, it makes sense to say what he's saying is that now you just can't give it over. Like, here, take it. I'm giving it to you. That doesn't mean anything. You have to have a star with it, not like the Rashbam's Girsa. But like the way Tosfos, but Omari says that little Tosfos, Omari, the Masir Sashtar, Kari Mili, just giving it over, just words. The Kamar like, take the star set. Hainu Mila Bialma. Avlik Shekosif Star Bishmo ala Shibud, Ein L'chamaisa Gedol Mizeh. In other words, Mili means if I'm just giving you the star. I'm giving you the star. I'm saying those are just words. That doesn't give you the rights of ownership of the IOU that you can collect it now. But like Tosfos learns, if he says, I'm also giving it, I'm also writing you a star. I'm saying this IOU that I have, IOU, exhibit A that I have over here, I'm giving that to you now, or selling it to you now. That's a kinyan. That's the Abel Geshos of Star Bishmo, Ala Shibud, and the that's a real Maisa. So Tosfos and Rashbam learned the exact opposite of the words Mili B'Mili Lo Mimsrei. The Rashbam and Rashi elsewhere says that Mili B'Mili means these are words, or those are words, so one star cannot work on another. Tosfos is just the opposite. A star could work on another. Mili B'Mili means Masir, just giving it over and saying you have it, that doesn't mean anything. You have to have a star with it. And then the kasha is, how does the Gemara then work? Because Mili B'Mili Lo Mikne, they can't work. What do you mean it can't work? Over here in the Havamina, in the case where he wrote the star in advance, where Ruvain wrote the bill of sale in advance, anticipating that he's going to sell it to Shimon. And we say over there, Shimon can get the star automatically. Where's the star that's giving that to him? If it's still sitting in the sofer's house, so to speak, how does he acquire it that way? It's mashma that you could just say by giving it to you, I'm giving it to you, that's good enough. No, there it's a kinyan agav. Since he made a kinyan on the karka, he gets the star with it. But normally, just giving over an IOU does not work the way Tosfos learns. Not star nikna b'star. Yes, it does, right? Star nikna b'star. But according to Rashbam, that wouldn't work the way we learn. Okay. We said when you sell the boat, we're still dealing with the first case. He's selling a boat, what goes along with it, right? So we said what goes along with it. And the Mishnah said, when you sell the boat, what goes with it? Well, the mast goes with it, the sail goes with it, the anchor goes with it, right? Everything that's necessary to drive the boat, the oars, right? But he doesn't sell the slaves, the staff, not the staff, the people who work for him, the slaves who are pushing the oars, and the martzufin and the martukin are the bags that they keep the merchandise in. Antiki is the merchandise; those are not included, unless he says everything that's in there. That's different. He says everything on there, it's fine. What is antiki? Amra Papa, it's the merchandise that's inside. the stuff that you're going to use in there. Rashbam says prakmat yeshiba. That's the that's not included unless you say this and everything that's in it. Says the Mishnah on Ayin Zion base. Again, let's say you have a wagon, and normally what drives the wagon are mules. Mules were usually, in other words, if you have a yoke that's going to work on the field, plowing, that's usually bakar, cattle, cows usually are under under there. But if you have a wagon, the wagons were usually pulled by mules. So let's say the owner has a wagon and he has mules, but they are not harnessed. The mules at this point are not harnessed to the wagon. So if you sell the wagon, the mules don't come along with it. Again, if you sell the mules, the wagon doesn't go along with it, even though normally they're used together. Let's say you sell them a yoke. Now, we'll see the bakar were, let's say, considered expensive. You paid a lot of money. The yoke was simply a piece of wood, some contraption that kept the two cows together. So if you sold the yoke, you didn't sell the bakar. Again, if they're not attached. Rav Yehuda says, we don't possibly. Rav Yehuda says, no. You could tell by how much money it was. How much did he pay for it? He says, listen, sell me your yoke for $200. Everybody knows that the tzemen isn't worth more than a Rashbam says even like a prut that's very small of money. Everybody knows that $200 for a yoke is a ridiculously high price. So therefore, when I said sell me your yoke for $200, I meant the yoke with the bakar, with the cows. Chum say no. The money is no proof at all. We're going to explain the Rabbanan. What do you mean the money is no proof? And therefore what? Therefore, apparently, when he said sell me the yoke, and he didn't mention the bakar, and they're not attached, they're not harnessed to the yoke. Rabbanan say no. Not like Rav Yehuda says, listen, if I said $200, obviously I meant to include the bakar. I'm saying no, the bakar is not. That doesn't mean anything. The fact that you mentioned the yoke, you said yoke. You said a high price. No, that doesn't mean anything. So does that mean that the deal is off, or does that mean the deal is on, but keep the money anyway? We'll see what that means. Okay. So Tani Rav Tachlifa learned Bam Rabba, the one he lived in Eretz Yisrael. I guess he was from Bam Rabba, from Eretz Yisrael. Kamed Rabba Bu Machas Akar and Machas Apredos. If he sells the wagon, he does sell the mules that go along with it. Now, what does that mean? That's not what the Mishnah said, right? The Mishnah said that if you sell the wagon, you didn't sell the mules with it. If you sell the mules, you didn't sell the wagon with it, not included. But Rav Tachlifa learned from Eretz Yisrael, he said, Ramavu, you know what? If you sell the wagon, it is included. So I vanan lo machat. And our Mishnah said that he says I looked over the book, I made Ravu, machas karan, machas apredus. So he asked him, vanan lo machat. And our Mishnah said that if you sell the wagon, the mules don't go along with it. Amar le Ismaya. So Rav Tachlifa from Eretz Yisrael said to Ravu, should I erase that brisa? That's what I learned. I heard such a brisa that the mules are included with the wagon, not like the Mishnah. If that goes against the Mishnah, should I erase the brisa and not pay any heed to it? Amar le, lo, no, don't erase it. Tatarga masnischa batukambo. Your brisa is speaking about masnischa. Your brisa is speaking about when they are attached, meaning when the animals are harnessed to the wagon. If a guy, I sell you a wagon and there's mules attached to the wagon, they're harnessed to the wagon, then they're included. But if they're not attached, then they're not included. So again, said if you sold the yoke, the bakar don't go along with it. Rav Yehuda says, well, it depends. It depends on look how much you paid for it. Echidami. What's the case over here? We say he sold the yoke, the bakar's not sold with it. If so, the bakar's not hechidami. What's the case over here? If in that locale they call a tzemet is a yoke, so a yoke is a yoke and bakar's a bakar. So pshita. If I sell you a yoke, you think I didn't sell you the cows. And if I sell you the cows, I didn't sell the yoke. Each one is called individually. Pshita. Tzim dozav le bakar lozam. I sold you the yoke, I didn't sell you the bakar. Bel the korlein ami le bakar tzimta. Mine must be where they call also buckets. And they say a yoke means a yoke of two cows. That's usually what it means. El the korlein ami le bakar tzimta. So if I said I'm selling you a yoke for $200, I meant the yoke of bakar, obviously. So why did the Rabbanan say the dam is no raya? If that's what they normally call a yoke A yoke means a yoke of animals, right? Means the yoke with the two animals attached to it. So obviously that should be included. So why did the Rabbanan say it's not a rice? We're talking about a place where normally they call a yoke, and bucker. They don't call them the same. Economy, some people they call bucket simda. Yes, a yoke is a yoke, bucker is a bucker, but sometimes some farmers refer to a yoke as referring to yoke with the animals. Economy, they call it the bucket simda. Rabbi says, look at it this way. We can't tell. When he said yoke, did he mean yoke only, or did he mean yoke with the two animals, with the two cows? So he says, look at the money. If he sold it to him for 50 cents, then he just meant the yoke. If he sold it for $200, he meant with the bucker. But Rabbanan Sabi ain't Adam Raya. You can't tell from the money. It doesn't mean anything. So the Gemara says, wait a minute. Ain't Adam Raya. If the Rabbanan say that you can't tell anything about the money, the deal should be off. Because obviously, what are you saying? You can't, Chum say you can't tell from the money. If you say yoke, all you get is a yoke. A yoke that's worth 50 cents, you're going to say you should get $200 for that? What about Onah, right? If you sell something for more than a sixth of its manufacturer's retail price, the retail suggested price, what's the deal? You got to give back the extra six. And if it's more than a six, the whole deal's off. So how can you say that he bought for $200, he bought a simple yoke, and it's mashma the Rabbanan that, he sold him the yoke, he gets the yoke. I don't care if he paid $200, and you can't prove from that, and the it's a good deal. The deal should be off. Maybe you'll say Rabbanan don't hold the bittul mekach. Rashbam has a whole thing over here that some say that he holds of Ono, but he has some yoke. But Rashbam's preferred explanation is maybe he doesn't hold the whole business of Ono and bittul mekach. Below, they don't hold it. By the time we learn, Rabbi Omer, the Gemara over there says, the Mishnah says that ain't Ono lekarka, right? Karka, there's no price. And that goes on to avodim, shtaros, and karka. They're all compared to one another in the Torah. So, and they learn out of Sukkim that there's no price on karka, as we know, right? Everybody who bought a house here 40 years ago paid, let's say, less than $1 million, and now it's worth a lot more, right? There's no price. If somebody wants to sell their house for $100 million, you can't say he cheated him because ain't an all karka. Karka has no price. Rabbi Yehuda adds on, Hamocher Sefer Torah, Behem Magos also in Illinois. He says, you know what? Sefer Torah also has no price, an animal has no price, and pearls have no price. He has that on too. Amulov, Rabban said to him, no. The Mishnah only is talking about avodim, karka, and shtaros. Those things have no price, right? That has no price. But you can't add these extra things, Sefer Torah, Behem. You can't start adding on your own. Only the ones in the Mishnah. Right? So what do you see over here? The Rabban hold of karka, of onah. Right? Only those things have no onah, but everything else has onah. Onah means less than a sixth, you're moichel. You got cheated, either the seller or the buyer. The seller sold it for too low of a price, or the buyer paid a higher price, up to a sixth. What's the halacha? No problem. Moichel, you can't be exact. If it's a six, you got to get back the six. If it's more than a six, the whole deal's off. So you see over here, you can't say the Rabbanan don't hold the whole idea over here. So how could it be that you paid $200 for a yoke that's worth 50 cents? Rashbam says it's worth a pruta. How could you say that's a good deal? Why? What do you mean? And if that's the case, the whole deal should be off. And it's not mashma that way. The Mishnah says, sold him the yoke, you sold him the yoke. He paid a lot of money, too bad. So why did that work? What about oh no? What about the fact that it's fraud and he's got the whole deal should be off? And you can't say that Rabbanan to hold the fraud because they told Rabbi Yehuda, you're saying there's no fraud even in the case of Sefer Torah Behem Argalos. No, only the cases of the Mishnah is there no fraud. All other cases there is fraud. So the Gemara says, "Ma'yin Adam Raya and Achnami Nami Diktani Davi Bitamak Achnami." One way to learn is when the Chacham said he offered him $200 for a yoke, and all you're going to get is the yoke. Rabbi Yehuda said you get the yoke with the bucker because that's what he must have meant. We don't possibly Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbanan say, no, you can't prove anything from the money. So what do you mean can't prove anything from the money? You can't prove it from there, and therefore what? He paid $200 for a yoke, and the deal's off. That's one answer. Another answer, and the preferred answer according to the Rashbam, that when we hold is, where do the Rabbanan talk about cheating, fraud, that you took too much money or too little money, and the deal's off? A person can make a mistake. For example, I bought a pair of tefillin. Not such a good example. I bought this this mug. Okay, they wanted $20 for it. Okay, you know what? I paid $30. I paid a little bit too much, right? Much more than a sixth of its value. It's only worth 20. I paid 30. You could say the deal's off. I paid too much. I made a mistake. I thought of it. Let's say they said the mug costs $2,000. So that's ridiculous, right? I didn't make a mistake. If I paid you $2,000, you know what it was? I wanted the mug and I wanted to give you a gift of $2,000. That's when the whole idea of a mistake as fraud is you were cheated, right? You were cheated. You thought it was worth 20, you paid 30, you paid a little bit too much. You got cheated. Deal's off. But if somebody said this mug, I'm giving you $1,000 or $2,000, obviously you know the mug isn't worth that much. Obviously, I meant to give it as a gift. That's what we say. Describe. Of course, it's the Torah. Below Sony says Shemiso is based on a pussy. But when did the Rabbanan describe the rules of Ono person can make a mistake. I thought it was worth $30. It was only worth 20. So I made a mistake. So if I got cheated, deal's off. There's only a sixth more, deal's on. Give back the six. Nobody makes a mistake. Like nobody thinks that the jug is that the mug is worth $2,000. So if I pay you that low, nobody makes a mistake. That Amr Matani of it's a gift. So over here, when a guy said, "I'll give you $200 for the yoke," what did the Rabbanan say? You gave him a gift for $200. The yoke's only worth 50 cents or a penny, but you gave him $200. That means it's a gift. It wasn't a mistake. He didn't get cheated. You can't say I got cheated. I gave you so much money. I got cheated. Every person knows that the yoke's not worth that much. It's worth that amount of money is simply a gift, and that's how you can explain the Rabbanan in the Mishnah who we pass like. Let's see the Mishnah. Hamocher as a chamor. Again, what's included, what's not included. We've been discussing this with the house and with the field and with the Beis Habad and with the olive press and all these other issues. The Sada, what's included. Now we're talking about a boat in this parak, and now we're talking about animals. So if you sold the wagon, the mules, if they're not harnessed, they're not included. If you sold the mules, the wagon's not included. If you sold the yoke, the cows are not included. If you sold the cows, the yoke is not included. Let's say you sell a donkey, and here we'll see, because what we're talking about is different animals are used for different purposes. But cows are used for plowing. That's why we talk about the yoke. The wagon, the mules are used for schlepping things in a wagon, right? And a donkey is used for his back, basically, right? Because people load up the donkey itself, not for pulling the wagon. The wagon is pulled by the mules. So you sell a chamor, a donkey. You didn't sell his accessories, the accessories that are on the back of the donkey. Nachmani disagrees. He says, no, you do include the accessories. The Gemara is going to give examples of all the accessories. Rav Yehuda Omer, Pam Mechur and Pam Shem Mechur. It depends. Let's say the chamor is standing here and its accessories were on the donkey. And he said to Mechorli chamor chazeh, sell me this one. I want this donkey the way it is now. And then the accessories which are on the chamor are included. Chamor chahu. If he says I want that cow, he didn't say zeh. He said chamor chahu, and kel mechor. Then the kel mechor. So it depends. Which kelim are we speaking about? The Gemara tomorrow's Gemara will explain what's included: the saddle bag, the other things, the blanket, what's included, what's not included. The Gemara will explain all that tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody. Kol tov.